Even I've been surprised, and maybe I shouldn't be. Nothing should surprise me anymore. But in the wake of the worst attack on the Jews since the Holocaust, the sympathy for Hamas, which has obviously been most prevalent on Ivy League campuses and in major American coastal cities, but is not immune from being here in our backyard. Dave Trabert is with the Kansas Policy Institute. He is on KCMO Talk Radio. They wrote about this at the Sentinel, and it's a story we mentioned last week, but we haven't touched on since then, and that is the University of Kansas Graduate Teaching Assistant Union calling Israel a settler colonial project. Dave, good morning. How shocked have you been by this, and what's been the reaction?
Morning, Pete. Sadly, it's not shocking. It's not the first time that union made comments of this nature. A few years ago, their union president retweeted something about death to America, and the union stood up for her. This is just anti-American sentiment. Now, they certainly have the right to say it. In terms of free speech, I mean, that's one of the challenges. But these are some of the same people who would condemn conservatives for just saying an opinion, nothing supporting terrorism, having a different viewpoint. They consider hate speech, but supporting barbaric actions by terrorists, well, to them, that's okay.
You know, that's the point that is so bothersome here. I mean, there's clearly, indisputably a right and a wrong, and no one's saying you don't have free speech, but this is next level. And then the question for KU is, yes, free speech, you can say whatever you want, but it doesn't mean that there can't be consequences to your speech, right? And that's where it's like, okay, what is KU's role in this, and what should they be doing about this with their grad assistants who are teaching, our Kansans with our tax dollars?
Well, again, that's up to the university, but the university, in my opinion, should come out and condemn this. Just like the universities, all those Ivy League universities you mentioned, they should come out and condemn it. If they don't, they are tacitly agreeing with it. Mm-hmm. And people have a right to know, especially the taxpayers who support these universities and the donors who support their endowments have an absolute right to know now, where does the university management stand? It's black and white. Do you support terrorist activities or do you not?
Mm-hmm. It seems pretty simple. It's amazing we have to even have the conversation, Dave Trabert. So when you look at this broadly, whether it's Harvard or whether it's a grad assistant union, teachers union here at KU, academia at large, especially at our college levels, we know it's broken. And to me, Dave, this is a sign that it is really broken. What has the last couple of weeks told you about higher education in particular and how we need to view it when it comes to public policy?
Well, I'm not sure it's even just higher education. Right now, higher education is front and foremost. But I think some of this is related to the years, if not decades, of what you and I have talked about before, this oppressor versus oppressed. Mm-hmm. And it's part of that critical race theory training that's gone through universities, through K-12, and working its way into a lot of corporate America, and so the Palestinian or the terrorists are coming out and saying they're oppressed, and therefore by default they get people who stand up for them because they have been trained. Oppressed is good, oppressors are bad. They don't look at the facts. It's very superficial.
It's pretty amazing though that somehow they've concocted this formula in their minds where the folks who just slaughtered 1,400 innocent people, including women and children, are the ones who are being oppressed.
I know it is, but I mean, I don't know if that's the way that you could say that's just brainwashing. They've been conditioned, but this is why it's so important for the university management and for everybody else associated with it to stand up and say, this is wrong. You have a right to say it, but we completely disagree with it. And there is, there has to be a different approach here. You cannot allow this support for terrorism to continue.
And how do you just get more traditionally minded folks on college campuses? I mean, I know they're there. I mean, I've heard from them privately. We know they're there, but they feel like they have to kind of, stay on the sidelines, and they can't be as vocal or as active maybe as some of the far more progressive folks at the teaching ranks at these universities. Is there a quick fix to that, or is that a generational problem that's going to take time to solve?
I don't think it's a quick fix, Pete. I think it's going to have to be consistency from university officials. They're going to have to come out every single time and very strongly condemn that kind of action. They need to, and even when it's something less insidious, at least no one's being killed when they're canceling conservative speech. Every single time they have to come out strongly and condemn that, so that people then feel like the university might, might have their backs if they dare to speak up and say, I think a little differently.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation here.
But here's the amazing part too, Dave. I mean, you know this. We live in a world where all this DEI nonsense, like we got to have five whites and 3 blacks and 4 Asians and 6 Latinos and 7 green people and the whole thing. If they all think the same, is that really diversity?
If they all think the same, nobody ever always thinks the same. There are always different opinions, and they have to be free to speak up. They have to know that it is safe to speak up. Mm-hmm. And it just has to happen. I mean, it's, this training just doesn't work. I mean, You see what it's led to with this kind of, now we're supporting terrorism. On the academic side, it was proposed on the theory that, well, these kids are oppressed and therefore they won't learn. That's why they're not learning as much. So we have to make them feel better. Well, here we are years and years into it, and the academics aren't working either. The achievement gaps between low-income and not low-income kids have gotten wider. The achievement gaps between white and black have gotten wider. Mm-hmm. And the achievement overall has gone down. This stuff, it's insidious, and it doesn't work as at least was pretended to be justified.
That is well said, pretended to be justified. Dave Trabert, Kansas Policy Institute. Great stuff as always, Dave. We'll be doing it again next Tuesday, back in our normal 7:30 slot. We appreciate you sliding around a hair, and have a great week, my friend. Talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks, Pete.
You as well. That is Dave Trabert on KCMO, now on FM at 95.7.